Hey you guys, it is me, Laura from Ticket to Learning. I am a homeschooling mom of 3 kids, ages 3, 8, and 10. And today I am going to share with you some of our favorite reads from the month of June. And if you hear a purring little one, it's Panda. She's here with me in the library today. Stripes might make an appearance at some point too. We'll see. Kittens are fun. But today I'm sharing with you some of our favorite reads from June, and I'm going to start with our family favorites. And the first one is an audio series, and it is The Green Ember. I'm sure many of you have heard of this before. I actually had started The Green Ember listening to it on my own. Didn't really get into the story, but then my kids started listening to it with my husband, and they all got very into it and very much enjoyed it. They have assured me that I did not listen far enough, so I might give it a go again. It's a 4-part series, and then I think there's 2 other sub-series that go along with it that the kids are wanting to do one of those this month, so we'll see how that goes. But this is a fantasy series, and it's written by S.D. Smith, and he took a lot of influence from J.R.R. Tolkien. So that's kind of what I know about this. I'm sure you've heard of The Green Ember before, and my kids and my husband absolutely loved it. The other books that we have been really enjoying as a family are the Zoe and Sassafras books. It is so good. It's about this girl Zoe. Her and her mom can hear this magical doorbell, and they help these magical creatures, but they use science, and it's all about the scientific method, and each book focuses on something a little bit different. The first book was all about the scientific method. The second book was about mold and how to stop mold from growing. The third book, which we're reading right now, talks about water pollution, and there are 8 books in the series, and the 9th book is set to come out soon. And I'm hoping to do another video on this later, but if you're looking for an alternative to a regular science curriculum, if you're wanting to do something that's literature based, this would be an amazing option. And if you go onto the Zoe and Sassafras website, which I will leave the link below, there are loads of printables and other activities that you could do with these books, so you could easily turn them into a full-blown science curriculum for a year. And you could either do 1 book a week or 1 book a month, or however you wanted to spread it out based on your kids' interests. But this is a really, really great series. So let's go ahead and start with my youngest, who is 3, and we'll work our way up to my favorites of the month as well. So we're going to start with my 3-year-old, and this has been one of her favorite books from the month. It is called The Monster, and she actually wrote it and helped to illustrate it. So what we did for this book, she was telling my husband a story at that time, and he recorded it on his iPhone and sent that to me, and I typed it up and we illustrated it together, and we've been having so much fun reading this book. She loves Frog and Toad, so this is one that she has been asking for a whole lot, and my husband says that when he is putting her down for her nap or bed, she has been enjoying this book. This is If I Built a House. Now, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the first book in this series, which is If I Built a Car. My kids all love this book. It's written in rhyme that works really well, and it's about this boy and his inventions and ideas. And the first one is about this futuristic car that he will make that does all of these fantastic things. And this one is about the house that he's going to make, and that does all of these fantastic things. And it's kind of set in, I believe, the 60s, so he is thinking forward in the future, which is kind of an interesting concept. I think there's a 3rd book in the series called If I Built a School. I'm not 100% sure on that. Sorry, my cat is ready to, the little kitten Panda is ready to jump up and knock down the tripod. So that is If I Built a House, and it is fantastic. A couple other books that Lily has been asking me to read a lot are Clark the Shark. She loves Clark the Shark, and Clark is about a shark who is big and doesn't realize his power and his strength, and he has to learn that there are times when he has to hold back. He can't munch everyone's lunch, and he can't be rough on the playground. But then another creature comes to school who's a big, huge, giant squid, and when he's playing with squid, Shark the Clark can be rough and tumble, and they can have a good time together. So this is a really good book about calming down and being patient when you need to, but also knowing when it's okay to just let loose and have a great time. And this book is called The Napping House. I used to use this a lot when I was a teacher, and this is one of those books where I can't remember what it's called right now because my brain is not working, but there is a house, a napping house, where everyone is sleeping, that has a bed, a cozy bed, in a napping house where everyone is sleeping. So then there's a child, and anyway, it just kind of builds and builds on itself, and you are repeating the whole thing. And the ending of this book is absolutely hilarious in the way that everybody wakes up and then they go outside and enjoy a nice sunny day. So those are the favorites of my 3-year-old. Now I'm going to move on to some of the favorites of my 8-year-old. Now I asked him what his favorite things are that he's been reading and looking at this month. And by far, he said his favorite is his Playmobil magazine, which I do not have because he's out with my husband right now, and he took it with him because he takes it with him everywhere. And it might seem odd for me to include a Playmobil magazine in a book favorites haul, but honestly, he's reading it. And there are little stories in there, and it gives his mind a lot of imagination, and you can use pretty much anything as books and literature and reading materials for your kids, and he pores over it for hours. If there's not already stories of the characters in there, he will make them up and figure them out. And of course, he has a huge wish list of all the things that he wants, but that is by far his favorite for the month of June. And the second one that he mentioned, I believe this was in last month, if not the month before, but it is this Castles Magnified. It comes with a magnifying glass. Let's see, let me show you. You pop it out right there, and then as you look at the pictures, it has a lot of things that it's teaching about the feudal system, the lord of the manor. It's got some real battles that happen, the people of the town, and what you do is you read some of the information there about what's happening in the picture, and then with each picture, this one's at the bottom of the page, it has all of these little small images that you are supposed to find in the picture. So it's got all of these across, and so you can use your magnifying glass to look on the page and see if you can find what you're looking for. And this has been, he loves this. He will pore over it, and not only are there the things to find that are on the page for you to find, but there's lots of other fun characters hiding in there and little fun scenes to find. So he has been really enjoying this one. They also have an Egypt one in this series, and I think there's a couple more. I don't remember what they are, but this one has been really fun for him. The last one is, and these often show up in his favorites as well, this is Prince Martin. So my 8-year-old is one who likes the same things and reads them over and over and over again. This is Prince Martin and the Thieves. This is the first book in the Prince Martin series, and right now what I have my son doing is we have the audiobooks, which he loves. So we will pull open the audiobook and he will read right along with it, and we can set the speed so that it's a good speed that he can actually follow along with, and he'll just read the story while he listens to it. This is something he's very familiar with, so this is really good at helping him actually build his fluency and his reading skills. And actually, this is book 2. I was wrong. He picked book 2. I thought he picked book 1, but this is actually book 2. So he's doing this with book 2. Sorry, got that confused. But he's still very much enjoying this. And that is it for his favorites for the month of June. And now moving on to my 10-year-old. So this is an audiobook that we have. The thing that I love about audiobooks, you guys, is that they're on my kids' iPads and they will listen to them over and over and over again. So what we do is for Christmas every year, they get a voucher in their stocking where they can pick out a new audiobook every month, and so they get to pick whatever this is, and that lasts for the course of the year. So they pick out those audiobooks and they can listen to them as much as they want. Each month they get a new one, and there are times that I will put audiobooks in there specifically for school, or for example, if they can get their dad really hooked on a series like Green Ember, he went ahead and got them this whole series because he wanted to hear what would happen next. But we definitely give them the option of getting one new book a month as part of their Christmas. So then when they have the books on their iPad, they listen to them pretty quickly, and then they'll go back and re-listen to these stories over and over and over again, and it's amazing. They listen to and retain so much more than they could if they were just dependent on me or my husband or even themselves to read the stories, because they can be listening to stories while they're working with their hands or working on a project or doing other things and setting up their Playmobiles and doing all these things. And so it's really, really neat to watch. But this is one of my son's favorites that he has listened to again and again. It's Rascal, and it's about a little boy and his pet raccoon, and he really loves this one. This was one of my husband's favorite when he was a kid, so he really likes to listen in sometimes with my son, and so this is definitely one of his favorites for the month of June. You've seen this a lot too. I Survived. He's continuing to read books from the I Survived series. He continues to love these. He loves every single one that he has read. I don't think he's read one that he has not liked. He definitely has his favorites, as do all children, but he loves going to the library that's very near to us. He can just walk there himself and check out books, and he really enjoys getting these books. So the last one that he really enjoyed is one of our family read-alouds that we have had for our emergency workers unit study, and that is the Dog Diaries Sparky. It's about a fire dog during the Chicago fire. I didn't think it was bad. It wasn't anything particularly special for me, but he really, really enjoyed this book. He enjoyed hearing the story about the dog and Lizzie, the girl who does well with the animals, and the fire and the excitement, and he thought this was great. And this also has a companion book in the Horse Diaries series about Cinders, and that's a horse that shows up in this book. So that is it for my 10-year-old. Now we're going to move on to my favorite reads for the month of June. So one of the first ones that I'm going to mention is City of Orphans. This is by Avi. You might notice that you are probably seeing a lot of books by Avi in my book hauls and in my book review videos. Sorry, I'm getting a little more comfortable here. But I love his books, and not all of them are as good as others, but I really enjoyed this book. I was reading it to see if this is something we can do for our immigration unit. There is a murder scene at the end, which I think is probably going to be too much for my 8-year-old. I'm still kind of debating. I'm on the fence about that. But at the least, I will have my 10-year-old read this along with an audiobook. It's a little bit, it's kind of a lot for him. I mean, I think he might be able to read it, but it's a big book. So I might just have him read it along with an audiobook to kind of help balance it out, or at least give him that option. But this is about the streets of New York in 1893. It's about a newsboy, Max, and a girl he finds who is an orphan, that is Willa, and his sister, Max's sister, is falsely accused of a crime, and she is going to go to jail. So they are working very hard to find out who actually stole the item that his sister was accused of stealing, so that she can have her name cleared and not go to jail. So it's a very good look at what life was like for a lot of immigrants in New York at this time, some of the struggles they had, the life of the newsies, and kind of gangs, and all of that is brought up in this book. It is such a good read, and I highly, highly recommend it. I would say, because of the murder scene, the recommended age on the book is 10 to 14, and I would say that that's probably pretty accurate, unless you have a sensitive 10-year-old, in which case I would bump that up a little bit more. The next book that I'm super excited about is War Horse, and this was such a good book. So I am looking for books on World War I. I'm trying to read ahead, not just books for the unit study for this year, but also next year. And I'm reading a bunch of different books for a bunch of different things all at once, because otherwise I just get overwhelmed with one topic and get bored with it and ready to move on. So I've really been struggling with finding books for World War I, but I found War Horse, and it is so good, you guys. I listened to the audio version of this that I got from my library. I highly recommend the audiobook because the narrator is so good from that. But this is the story of a horse who ends up being a war horse. His original owner loves him and takes good care of him, and is not happy that his father sells him to be a war horse, and he's determined to find him, but he is too young to fight in the war. So this chronicles the events of the horse over the history of the war, all the sides that he serves on, the places that he served, and it also chronicles how he got back in touch with his original owner and what happened in that whole story, and it is just so good. There are a couple instances, one instance that is potential cussing. I really don't think it is. I think the person's genuinely calling out to God, and one more cuss word in the book, so there is that to be aware of. But otherwise, this is such a good book. I think it does a really good job of explaining the challenges, the ugliness, the difficulty of war without being too heavy. A lot of times these books are really graphic and really heavy, and I didn't feel that this one was. I felt like it was really, really, really well done. Oh, and this also has a movie to go with it. So if you like watching movies and books, that'd be great. So the last one on my favorites list is actually a picture book. It's called Eyes That Kiss in the Corners, and it's about a little girl whose eyes look different than her friends' eyes, but she loves them because of all of the things they represent. And she talks about how they're eyes like her mama's, and eyes like her grandmother's, and eyes like her little sisters, and all the things that are represented in that, and all the things that are in their eyes. And it talks about her heritage and her culture and where she comes from, and it is just a beautiful book. This is an especially good book if you have a child who struggles with accepting some of their features of their body. This kind of helps us to realize that we were born with beauty in us, and there is a uniqueness and an individualness that comes just from who we are. So I really, really enjoy this book. I think it's also a really good look at some Asian culture. If you don't know much about that or are studying that with your children, it has a lot of things that would be interesting to research and learn a little bit more about. So those are our favorite books from the month of June. I'm sorry this is so long, but there were some really good books. We didn't read as much as we usually do because we had a big family reunion type thing in the middle of June that took up about 2 weeks of our time. So we didn't get quite as much reading in, but we did read these things and we enjoyed them. And I hope that maybe there was an idea or two here for that will spark interest for you or your kids as well. And if you have any questions about these books or anything else at all, please leave me a comment below, and be sure to check my description. I will put loads more information about all of these books there. And if you want to see more content like this, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then hit the bell notification to make sure that those subscriptions actually make it in your inbox. And that is pretty much all that I have for you today. I hope that you're having a great day and a wonderful summer, and I will talk to you later. Bye.